In the area of AI and data governance. We have Dr. Afrodite Sevasti. She's CTO of the Growthfund, which is the national fund of Greece. She's a long-term digital infra engineer as well, so has a huge amount of experience both in the telecoms, in the data center and digital infrastructure space. And finally, we have Dr. Charalambos Chekeris, who is a member of the Greek Prime Minister's High-Level Advisory Committee, the AI member of the OECD Expert Group on AI Futures as well. They say that if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're probably in the wrong room. I think I can certainly say that I'm definitely the least smart person standing up here, which means I'm in the right place in terms of moderating this panel and not sitting on the panel. I think just to put some quick context on the panel and why we're here. An ex-colleague of mine posted this morning on LinkedIn asking the question, can AI lie and who is responsible when it does? And he said, imagine waking up to find an AI chatbot falsely claiming you were involved in a murder of your children. That is exactly what happened to a man in Norway, where ChatGPT completely fabricated a crime and linked him to it. So we are in a very, very interesting era. We have the growth of AI, and we are now grappling with how to address it. And so the real question is, what is the right approach to regulation of AI? And I think the right place to start with that is with the Secretary General to tell us exactly how that is being approached by the Hellenic government.
First, thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you for being here at this very nice conference. To my opinion, there's no single optimum way to approach AI issues, and you all understand why. I think that you also understand that EU has been a pioneer in AI regulation. It's very nice to do so, but one has to tackle issues related to regulation with innovation, and the fact that changes occur and that we cannot cope with the speed that changes occur worldwide. So it's very it will be very difficult to regulate developments that actually take place, and this is beyond our power to do so. So I would like to stress out that in Greece we just had yesterday the ceremony for launching the construction of Daedalus, which is our supercomputer that will host our AI innovation system called Pharos. It's one of the 7 AI factories of the EU. I think you had the chance to listen to this just before today. But concerning the implementation of AI projects in Greece, and especially by the Greek government, I have to say that under the provision of AI Act, there are 4 categories that systems have to be classified, and one of them is the one that is of systems that are not permitted. Such systems are social scoring systems like in China, as you know, systems that enable violence for minors, like games that do so. And it's evident that in Greece we have already realized and classified our AI systems, government systems that by no means are there, and are systems that are of this category. But the issue is not just to classify systems, is to see how you can develop systems that may be of high risk. According to the AI regulation, the AI Act, all systems that are quite of importance are of high risk, according to the AI Act. So what we need to come up with is a way to evaluate algorithms in the EU and find it a way to be an efficient way to do so. Because I can give you a couple of examples that are very important to my understanding. You have algorithms and you have products that use such algorithms, and you need to evaluate them. Okay, algorithms do change. We cannot have a single evaluation by each single member state in the EU that evaluates this algorithm or this product and repeatedly do so in the EU, across the EU. So we cannot repeat this process for member states, that's evident. So we need to come up with a semantic organizational scheme that enables us to interoperate in terms of algorithmic evaluation. Otherwise, it would not be possible for us to evaluate a version of an algorithm and then the next version in Greece and do so in Germany, France, Italy, etc. So that's a quite important aspect of European cooperation and making more deep the relation between member states, algorithm evaluation and trust in this respect. Second, if we have a very tight regulation in EU, then if we're not the pioneers in enabling, finding a denominator of all regulations across the globe with the first steps taken by the EU, so if we don't come up with the denominator, then as we have taxation paradises like Marshall Islands, then there will be such AI paradises that no one will have any regulation applied there. So it will be completely meaningless to have tight regulations in specific parts of the world and other places that there's no regulation at all. So we have to come up with a scheme that enables us to find common rules, common regulation, at least a minimum set of regulatory aspects, and this to be enforced worldwide. Third, AI is a game changer, of course. Really, developments are out of the power of any government to control, because you understand that there are very important players worldwide, and this is a private companies. To my understanding, it has to be the fear, it has to be the agony, it has to be the investment and the innovation, the profound innovation that everybody understands that there is such innovation, and the gain that it will help us all worldwide, at least in the Western world, to understand that we have to come up with such common grounds to control AI. On the other hand, we really don't know what's there with China. So that's my understanding. These are my thoughts, and thank you again for letting me share them with you.
Thank you. That was, I think, a very, very detailed review of the challenges that we face. And Shahbaz, I'd like to ask you, just from an ethics perspective, perhaps, to give your views on those challenges that the Secretary General has set out so clearly.
Okay, this is fine.
It's okay. There's a go ahead.
Thank you. So, fully agree that we need global governance because the challenges are global, and we need more international mechanisms for collaboration and for finding common solutions. This is very difficult because we have big interests, and the geopolitical and the geoeconomic structure is very polarized nowadays. Well, if you read history, you can see that there have been always bad actors and good actors. We always have the good actors that want unity, not fragmentation, and we always have bad actors desiring polarization, fragmentation, and a closed landscape of special interest. So I think that if you read history, you can see that the agreements that are most respectable are the agreements and international conventions which put sanctions, economic sanctions. And I think that this is the best way to force bad actors to conform. This is one observation. The other observation is that we need more dialogue and new institutions, new international institutions, in order to avoid existential risks. And if you read history, you will be more optimistic because there has been always a kind of coalition of good actors with the values of democracy and the values of humanity that prevail in the long run. So I think that bad actors will understand that it is not wise to provoke existential risks because this is a global risk, and they will move back in favor of global cooperation, of global mechanism of rule setting. This is my first observation.
Thank you. Aphrodite, looking at from sort of an investor perspective into the market, what's your view in terms of the challenges that the regulation and the need for regulation brings to the investor?
First of all, most of the challenges are with investees. I think the companies are facing a huge challenge these days. There's regulation, European regulation coming up. There's a lot of standardization work currently in progress, a lot of constraints, a lot of investment. It's estimated that an SME in Europe will probably have to spend at least 200k euros per year to be able to stay within the regulatory framework. So because of the impact AI can have, positive and negative, the companies will have to do due diligence on compliance and regulatory risk. They will have to invest a lot in compliance in different territories, under different regimes, under different regulatory frameworks. Even if let's say the vision is to eventually converge, this will take a lot of time and a lot of pain. So there is cost, there's complexity, there is the way they have to design their products, which imposes a lot of extra constraints and costs. So all this creates for the investee companies an extra set of requirements that they have to comply with to be attractive to investors. I think from the infrastructure provider's point of view, and also in order to be attractive to investors, they also have to, as it was mentioned earlier, be very careful to where they invest in terms of data sovereignty, to be able to offer localized services, to be able to offer all kinds of regulatory compliances and standards compliances. And from the investor point of view, a lot of the valuation will have to be focused, large part of the valuation will have to be focused on the risks and the efforts and the gaps between where the companies are today and where they will have to be investor-wise worth to consider, and also how they will cope with the evolution of regulatory changes, which will be constant for quite some time because we are entering a new era. And also, there will be very interesting cases, for example, in M&A, where a company which resides in a more heavy regulated area like Europe will be an attractive candidate for investors, because this means that they will give to a certain investment starting a head start. So all these aspects are very, let's say, on the table right now with regards to investments.
Okay, I have to say I'm loving the optimism that is coming out of the panel. I'm also loving the fact that it sounds like there's more regulation is needed, which is good for lawyers at least. So our job, despite AI, our job seems to be safe. Afrodite, you mentioned data and data governance. We had the minister here this morning. He talked about he was rushing to the parliament, so he had to cut short his address, because he was going to talk about the new legislation that is certainly being discussed and possibly enacted today in Greece in relation to data governance. I thought maybe, Secretary General, you could talk a bit about that legislation and what the intention is behind that. And I think a key point is how is it AI ready? How does it help Greece be AI ready?
Okay. Try to. Yeah. It's working, right? Okay. You see, it works with the government. Doesn't work with the private sector. So that's a miracle in Greece. Yeah. It's the Data Governance Act, which is an act that has to be somehow incorporated into the Greek law system, and that's more or less the objective of this legislation. In Greece, we're not very proud, I would say, being able to have lots of data, either public data, open data, or data that can be used by the private and the public sector. So not for open data, not for being able to have large sets of data from the government, anonymized, and being able to be used for innovation, for AI purposes, for research. So this is something that we want to tackle with this law, and we need to do so, and this is evident. But in this respect, I think that we all know that to have promising AI results, you need to have large sets of data. You need to have data which are data of quality, because garbage don't help. And in this respect, we need data from different data sources. So what we did actually in Greece in the past years is that we had very consistent efforts to clean data. So we tried to make homogeneous all the registers of the public sector for citizen data to be able to be identified across all different information systems. I would say that in the past we have different and multiple social security numbers for the same citizen. So we couldn't just come up with the result of a simple query or related to what's the medication that this citizen has been using in the past years because of such problems. And we couldn't also offer multiple and critical digital services to citizens, because we had to transverse from one record, from one information system to the other: taxation, social security, civil police records, etc. So this could not happen, and I think that it was the vaccination process that enabled us to clean our records and come up with a record that actually has all the keys, all the primary keys, that is the social security number, the taxation number of each citizen, to offer these complex services. So we have cleaned our records so far. Second, we have a very, I would say, significant and very optimistic project of digitizing all information systems and documents that have been produced in the past, from medical records, judicial system, cadastre, national cadastre, and many other areas like agriculture, etc. We have a very promising project that enables us to digitize all these records. So, given this, we'll be able to have much more data available to process and also use in the respect of AI projects. The issue that we have to tackle with here is how we can anonymize these data sets and make them available for use and exploitation. This is not an easy task to do so, and it's very important that we do so in the right way according to GDPR, because there are very strict provisions otherwise. So we need to have a team, and this is how we're going to approach it, a kind of experts, small group of team, a small team with small number of experts that will try to visit different ministries in Greece and different information systems and try to come up with ways to make such data anonymized and then being used by AI systems and given to the public or given to research or given to startups or whatever to be used for processing. And we're going to do it ministry by ministry and using the same methodology. This is how it is done in the best possible way worldwide, as I understand, and try to get this data out of the silos and move to a single warehouse that they can be used. Needless to say that I'm not hoping that this will be easy, because there are data such as taxation, finance data, financial data, social security, etc. data, which are not easy to extract, anonymize, and use. But this is something that we have to do. And this has to do with data, government data, not open data. This is a different domain that we have to work on, but I'm talking about government data. So, under the provisions of GDPR, Data Governance Act, this is how we're going to proceed in this country, and I'm very optimistic because we have made serious attempts to clear data, being able to have quality data and find the right data for each person across different registries. This is not evident, it was not profound in this country, and I think that this is not profound in other countries as well. That's why composite services couldn't be provided in the past. That's from me.
Thank you. And first of all, the clarity of thought on process is genuinely remarkable. I think the Secretary General is absolutely right that the issue of data being held in multiple different locations, not being connected, is one that is pervasive across a lot of countries. And I know from the UK, my wife works in the National Health Service. There, they have struggled because data within the National Health Service is held in multiple locations, not. So that's just within the health service. So you can imagine that across other government departments is just as bad. And maybe you can teach the UK how to approach this. Also great to hear that there's a positive coming out of COVID, which makes a nice change. But Charles, just interested to what extent you are seeing in your discussion, because obviously you're an OECD expert as well, with seeing other countries adopting a similar approach, and to what extent do you see Greece leading the way? Where are other countries going with this whole challenge around dirty data, data governance?
we have a huge diversity of in this global and European landscape. That's why I fully agree with Dimosthenis that we need double emphasis, and national emphasis, and European emphasis. For example, we need the European AI responsibility testing lab for the quality of algorithms. We need the European certification body to produce certificates and micro-certificates. We also have this in Greece after the establishment of the so-called independent authority of AI, which will supervise the AI Act. And we also need European auditing bodies in order to make sure, like an FDA, European FDA for algorithms, to make sure that algorithms are for good. Algorithms in themselves are not neither moral nor immoral. We make them moral or immoral, and this is the biggest challenge: training and education, ongoing education, ongoing training, AI leadership programs, and many skills in the public sector and the private sector. And a more pragmatic and realistic approach. You know, the big tech companies focus nowadays on AGI, artificial general intelligence, but the European Union rightly focuses on the existing capacities and capabilities of AI, and our national AI strategy, the so-called Greece blueprint, the blueprint for the transition of Greece in the era of AI, adopts a pragmatic and realistic approach. We do not refer to superintelligence, we do not refer to AGI, we refer to the existing capacities and opportunities of AI to realize them. And we also adopt a positive and optimistic approach. And I think that this is a good example, and Greece produced a good example for Europe and the whole world, because it combines regulation and innovation. For example, Daedalus is a good example of a superstructure, a supercomputer created in this regulatory framework, and we do have strong ethical standards. And I think we do have a transition on ethics, and we do have Digital Ethics Commission able to produce soft law. So we need both soft law and hard law. We need to combine self-regulation and regulation. Regulation is both top-down from the state and bottom-up from civil society and citizen initiatives. So we need all this. We need this diversity, this complexity. And I think we're going to find the kind of dynamic equilibrium both at national, European, and global level, having in mind that there are many, many futures of AI. We do not have just one AI future. We may invent alternative models, so we will have an AI factory producing AI models and AI solutions. So this is open. The future is open to produce new, alternative, more sustainable models. And although we are a small country, we have a big potential to make the difference and to disrupt the global landscape.
Thank you. I mean, the idea of AI creating new AI models is starting to make my head spin in slightly negative directions, but I think you have a very positive view on that. Afrodite, I want to go on a slight tangent, but related to data governance, which is around federated models and centralized models. And I'll ask you to explain what they are for those of us in the room who don't have a full understanding of it. But what impact does data governance have on the ability to deploy a federated model as opposed to a centralized model?
So I think these are the
the two sides of the same, let's say, coin. So essentially, AI is very much dependent on data, and data itself is feeding AI. So the, let's say, technology community has been very good in deploying federated models. The internet itself is a federation of resources and of communication structures. So essentially what we're currently trying to do is, first of all, make the distributed nature of computing, which has already been available through data centers and so on, become very handy in a way to democratize AI, to bring it closer to the hands of users. There is a very good example of the so-called AI altruism, which is part of the regulation, the AI Act, and also the national law, which has to do with decoupling data stewardship from data usage. And this will allow the world to become more enabled in terms of developing AI use cases and utilizing the data which is out there, rather than concentrating in the big tech and having monopolies and having a lot of, closed source, as we call it, use cases. Distribution has to do with the user being able to have more control on their own data, being able to access their data even if they are within AI systems. It has to do with multi-stakeholder control of what happens with data, where is data stored, how is data protected, how is their data audited. So all of these aspects, revolutionize the way data is being used. I mean, we do live in a data-driven economy for several years now, but AI has disrupted this in different ways, and we see that in regulation, we see that in industry, coming up with solutions and so on.
Thank you. I'm conscious of time. Are there any questions from the audience? There is one at the back. I don't know, you might have to stand up and shout loudly to be heard.
Bring the mic over, if that's easy.
Yeah. So if you could introduce yourself before you ask the question, just so that they know the context.
Thank you very much. My name is George Peklivanoglu. I'm the General Director of an energy company in Greece called Unis. Hearing the very interesting speeches before, I hope that there is no AI startup here in the room, because they would flee EU with so much regulation that is coming. But I would say that there is a doubt in the amount of regulation that can be imposed in such a technology, when anyone can practically use the services from non-regulated countries or companies acting in non-regulated countries simply through VPNs or any other sort of means. And I'm wondering if this regulation at this point is hampering development of AI in data centers in the EU. And I remember that we have lived through such, digital explosions back in the day with piracy, with torrents, with a lot of things that EU tried to regulate, but at the end of the day, people found ways to go around it. Do you think that this is a danger?
I think it's a great question. It was actually my last question, so that's perfect. Secretary General, would you like to answer in the first instance, please?
I think there are multiple answers to your question. Yes, we need to come up with, as I stated before, common regulation rules worldwide. Otherwise, we'll have a paradise of AI in specific parts of the world where no rules apply. Yes, so this is profound. On the other hand, there is the potential need in Europe to consider loosening AI Act provisions for innovation and other purposes. Yes, that's something that we have to consider. Third, concerning a startup in Greece, yes, it's true that provisions of the AI Act are quite strong, but on the other hand, it's the EU that has provided the tool of AI factories that will bring computer power and all the necessary resources needed to enable startups have free access to such capacities, which may not occur in the States or in other places in the world. So we do have provisions and funding mechanisms and infrastructure under the provision for specific target groups such as startups and innovation. Fourth, when you want at the time, if you are a private or a government entity and you want to have access to AI tools, how would you get such access? What would you do at the time? To where? To whom?
Anywhere around the world.
To any hyperscaler, right?
Or Chinese DeepSeek.
Ah, okay. Okay, let's exclude China, as I mentioned before. Nowadays, it's very evident that you may come up with a subscription to a hyperscaler and have access to computing power and AI tools through this process, right? So this is kind of regulated, first, I have to say. Second, it's the cloud and AI, bond that will be very important in the future, how you tackle with this issue. But in Europe, you need to come up with ways to offer such capacity to private firms and government, and then you have to deal with this issue. You have to come up with a strategy and find ways to enforce what your strategy is. Given that to the time, up to now that is, we do have such capacity offered in a very concise and very easy way from hyperscalers. Thank you.
I think I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to end it there. But I think that the observation I would make, you're absolutely right around torrent, etc. But I think we also need to look and recognise the film industry has not collapsed as a result of it. The music industry has not collapsed as a result of it. It's found ways to cope and address that. And I think what I'm hearing, so from what the Secretary General is saying, is government and clearly the Greek government, but I think other governments as well, are very well aware of the challenge and the risks. And awareness is the first step. They're not head in the sand and doing it. So it's a very legitimate concern, but I take comfort as a taxpayer and as someone who cares passionately about the importance of AI being used ethically, that governments are actively engaged with the problems and challenges. I think we could have gone for a lot longer, so I'm sorry to have to cut it short. But please thank the panel for their time, and thank you as well.